What's going on everyone, you're back with your boy Jono for another quick math lesson. Today we're going to have another look at equations, but specifically in this lesson, we're looking at equations that have brackets in them. One thing that's really important for this lesson is that you're great at expanding expressions already. So if you're not 100% on top of that, please go watch one of my earlier videos and it's linked in the description below. So what's going to happen in these type of questions is we're going to have our equation, but the variable or the letter that we're trying to find is going to be inside some brackets. This is really hard to deal with. We can't just take it away from these brackets straight away. One thing that we're really looking for is we need to remove the brackets before we can just attempt these equations like we're used to doing. So if I had an equation like this, 5 bracket x plus 2 is equal to 15. For this one, I can't actually do anything with the letter until there are no brackets left. And there are two ways that I can get rid of these brackets. The first one is that I could expand the expression just like normal, or because I know it's 5 times everything in that x plus 2, I could divide the front term from both sides. We're actually going to do both methods to solve this equation, so you can just decide which one you like more. So just to change it up, we're going to do one step of each side of the equation at the same time, just so you can see that both of these are actually incredibly easy. And again, it's just up to you to whichever one you prefer. So I'm going to expand the brackets on the first time. So I've got 5 is multiplied by the x, so 5x, plus 5 times 2, which is equal to 10, and that's all equal to 15. I haven't actually changed anything with the equation, so my equal sign has to be exactly the same. It's still equal to 15. That's the first step if you're deciding to expand. If you go over to the other one, I've got 5 times x plus 2, and that's all equal to 15. So because everything inside the brackets are really close together, we've got to deal with what's furthest away, and that's the 5 times on the outside. So to get rid of 5 times, I have to divide by 5. Remember that whatever I do to one side, I have to do it to the other side, so both sides are divided by 5. Now I'm just left with x plus 2 is equal to 3. Just remember that when you do divide that 5 off, the brackets disappear. There's no point for them anymore. It's just x plus 2 hanging out. If we go back to our expanding one, we've got 5x plus 10 is equal to 15. The plus 10 is furthest away, so I have to minus 10 from both sides. This just leaves me with 5x is equal to 5, and that's my next step done. On my dividing side, I've got x plus 2 is equal to 3. X plus 2, I need to get rid of that plus 2 by doing minus 2 to both sides. This just leaves me with x is equal to 1, and that's me done. X is by itself, and it's equal to a number, and that's 100% correct. Just to double check this with our expanding one, I've got 5 times x is equal to 5. I have to get rid of that 5 times. Doing the opposite, I divide both sides by 5, and I'm just left with x is equal to 1. Both of these methods gave me the exact same answer, so you can just choose whichever one you like. As long as the mathematical principles are fine, you're going to be sweet. So you might have seen in that dividing one, right, method number 2, it was actually a little bit quicker, and students do prefer to do this. I really like doing the dividing as well, but I only do it in 2 specific scenarios. Number 1 is when there's only brackets, when there's one bracket, it's a really good time to divide. And I also really like to divide if it's an exact whole number that fits in. I hate dealing with decimals and fractions, so I'll only use this method if I know for sure I'm going to get a whole number as my answer. So if we have another look at these side-by-side equations, we've got the same brackets, but they're just equal to something else. It's equal to 44 on one side and 43 on the other. So because I've got 4 out the front, I'm actually going to do the divide when it's equal to 44 because I know I'm going to get a whole number. So on this side, I'm going to divide both sides by 4, which leaves me with x minus 7 is equal to 11. I really like doing this because I've got that whole number and I'm not dealing with decimals. If I look at the other side though, if I divide 43 by 4, I'm going to get a really annoying decimal, and I don't want that yet. So for this side, I'm going to do my expanding. This just means I've got 4x minus 28 is equal to 43, and that step's totally fine. Back to my first side, I've got x minus 7 is equal to 11. To get rid of minus 7, I just have to plus 7 to both sides, and x is equal to 18. That's that whole side done. So even though this one is much faster, I only did it because I had a whole number after my first division. If you've got to deal with heaps of decimals, it does become a little bit more annoying. Back to my other side, I've got 4x minus 28 is equal to 43. So I've got a plus 28 to both sides. This gets me to 4x is equal to 71. And because I've got 4 times x is equal to 71, I just have to divide both sides by 4. X is equal to 71 over 4, and that's my final answer. You can simplify this in your calculator if you want, but that's actually totally correct. 71 divided by 4, done. So one thing you do really need to look out for is if the brackets aren't the only thing, you can't just divide super easily. Because what we would be saying here is, 7 and 21, happy days, I'm going to divide. If I divide by 7, I'm actually dividing the whole side by 7, not just my brackets. So if I divided this by 7, I'd be left with x plus 3, great, but that would be plus 2 over 7. And that's a really annoying fraction. So your options for this one is to expand first, collect your like terms, and then solve the equation as normal. So this would just be 7x minus 21 plus 2 is equal to 21. Because I've got minus 21 and plus 2, my next step of working is just to combine those like terms. Now I've got 7x minus 19, and that's equal to 21. This just looks like a normal two-step equation that I'm great at. I'm going to plus 19 to both sides, which leaves me with 7x is equal to 40. 7 times x, I've got to divide by 7 to both sides. So x is just equal to that 40 divided by 7. Full marks, happy days. The other way that you could do it is see that that plus 2 is the furthest thing away from my letter at the very start. So I could just get rid of that first. Because it's plus 2, I could minus 2 to both sides. Now I've got 7x minus 3 is equal to 19. I'm going to expand this, so I've got 7x minus 21 is equal to 19, and you can see we're in a very similar position than we just were. If I'm going to plus 21 to both sides, I've got 7x, it's equal to 40, what a surprise. Divide both sides by 7, x is equal to 40 divided by 7, exactly the same. So the mathematics is not too difficult, you just have to make sure that we are dealing with what's furthest away first, and then we can use all of our expanding tricks in order to get the variable by itself. So just in this last example, we've got a fraction with brackets on it. So you can always expand first if you'd like, but because I know if I multiply two whole numbers together, my answer is going to be a whole number, I usually like to multiply first and then expand second. So for this one, I've got 3, x minus 5 all divided by 4 is equal to 9. The divided by 4 is the furthest thing away from my letter, so I'm going to times both sides by 4. Now I've got 3, x minus 5 is all equal to 36. So now I've just got my brackets and 36 on the other side. And lucky for us, if I divide both sides by 3, I'm going to keep on to that whole number. So if I divide both sides by 3, I'm going to have x minus 5 is equal to 12. Now to finish off, to get rid of minus 5, I just have to plus 5. So I've just got x is equal to 17, and we're done. So I just want you to know that there are a huge amount of ways for you to get these right. You just have to go slow and make sure that we're doing our steps, writing it out every time, and not getting confused with what's furthest away from the variable. Again, my biggest pro tips are using a different color to show you're working, show the operations that you're doing, and making sure we're taking the time to put it in a really clear column so you don't get confused with what step you're up to. Thanks so much for watching this lesson, and I'll see you later.